Welcome, Sherri. It's good to have you on the show.
Hi, I'm so pleased to be here. We may manage to get this sorted for today.
Yeah, good timing, isn't it? Your week off.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you want to tell the people that are watching a little bit about yourself? I think it's always better to come from the guest.
Yeah, okay. So thank you. It feels like I've known you for ages since I was at the multi-dimensional show. Was it
Yeah,
2018?
no. Yeah, when was that? That was 6 years ago.
2018, I think. I was looking through some old photos. I think it was 2018.
Oh, wow.
When I did the talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, here we are. I'm based in Avalon. I wasn't at the time. I was based in somewhere else in Somerset.
Mm-hmm.
And now I find myself in the magical place Isle of Avalon, known as Glastonbury to many, but so many magical things happen here. I do have to say, you do get a calling when it's your time to come to Glastonbury. It can't be forced. There's a definite calling. And with me, it happened with a really kind of visceral, heart-tugging. Somebody said, "We'll help you move here." And my heart literally went doing, and I've never felt that literal tug to move here. So yeah, I've been based here for work about 3 years now, just over 3 years. So yes.
Wonderful. I can imagine you get quite busy there. There's so much going on in Glastonbury, isn't there? And it's
there's a lot going on in Glastonbury. Yeah, there's always stuff going on in Glastonbury, because very kind of traditional, all the old pagan, druid, all the old traditions. And I like to go to some of them, especially Chancellor Gardens has some nice gathering with the elders and the local women. A lot of beautiful healers live here. Yeah, there's courses going on all the time. I mainly work online, but if people are visiting, they can kind of request to come and see me, and hopefully I'll be doing more of that in the new year.
Lovely. Do you have a centre there, or a healing room of some kind, or?
No, because my clients are all over the world, and thanks to divine intervention, my work was already largely set up online before COVID hit. So when lockdown happened, I was traveling back from Mexico. The very first day of lockdown, we arrived in, a friend and I got to Birmingham airport, and there was just this silence everywhere and stuff, very, very weird. But I thought, gosh, lucky me, I'm already booked up with people to send up online on Skype or WhatsApp video. Thanks to all the technology, because when I first started up, it didn't wasn't there. I can't remember when I first started with Skype, but it was pretty early on, I think 2008, 2009, when I started in the UK. I'd already been doing lots of spiritual work in Italy before that, where I lived for many years. So I was kind of, this'll be nice, it'll be nice and quiet. As an empath, I'm not great with busy, noisy places. I thought, great, it'll be quiet, and the birds came out singing more, and there wasn't this traffic everywhere. And initially I was grateful, and then I kind of realized, oh my goodness, this really is hitting so many people, their businesses and everything. So, but I was very blessed to have already had this guidance, and I do think higher guidance, to set myself up as an online therapist rather than in person, because nobody would have been able to come to my house. So
that's very, very good. Very fortunate indeed. I think
different languages, and I speak different languages. So French and Italian mainly, a little bit of Arabic, a little bit of many other languages, and so I do get people from all over the world, booking in, because I speak quite slowly and clearly, and they can understand. And then I got other languages to help us through it. So
that's certainly useful.
Kind of fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You
Well, like
offer.
I say, there might be more in-person stuff going on soon.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. It's nice to have that balance, isn't it, of in person and online.
Exactly,
Definitely.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it can feel a bit weird. Sometimes I'm kind of like
Yeah,
finish my day, I was like, oh, yeah. Because we can bilocate, right? When we're working with people, we're bilocating anyway, and I do intuitive reading. So it's like I'm sitting with the person anyway, it doesn't matter. But
yeah.
it's long distance, yeah.
Yeah, I've had that question asked of me when I've done readings, card readings or Reiki. They say, don't you have to be with me? Don't you have to be able to feel the energy in us? It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as time and space when you're working on this level. You can be
No, it's the
anywhere.
quantum field. It's the quantum
Yeah,
field. So everything depends on intention and focus. And so, yeah,
yeah.
the work
You
gets
offer a
done.
variety of things, don't you, Sherri?
Pardon?
You do a variety of things. Theta healing being a big one.
Theta healing, yeah, my main focus has been theta healing for many years. I've done other trainings, and it's nice to sort of add other things, other strings to your bow, and it all helps. I went to Israel once and did something called recall healing, and that really helped open up a deeper understanding of ancestral imprints on
Mm,
people. Like one of the really fascinating things he said, well, if you get a child who's not very good at mathematics, ask the parents, where was the sum detracted or added? Where was the difficulty in the numbers?
mm,
And it could be, one child died at birth, so they had 5 children, but actually they only had 4, so there was an odd deduction, and the child might kind of have a weird difficulty with maths or can't subtract because that was a difficult subtraction. Things like that. It was really, really fascinating.
yeah. Wow. It's
Yeah,
that is interesting. It's the memories carried down through the genes, isn't it? It's something
they
that
do.
you
Yeah.
appreciate.
Yeah, yeah, and I frequently work, because I say theta healing mainly focuses on um, belief work. So
Mm,
giving a person a better mindset. Releasing old patterns, because when a trauma happens, you might get landed with a belief that is a negative reflection, especially children. Mummy and daddy are arguing, and suddenly the child is downloading to himself or herself,
mm,
it's all my fault, and then grows up with that in the back of their mind, and as adults that starts playing out in really irrational and healthy ways. So when I'm scanning the person, I get to see the beliefs that are maybe caught up in the DNA, but even, as we work on 4 levels, so the soul level can be across many lifetimes, the genetic level, or the inner child. As a child up to the age of 6 or 7, you're kind of downloading everything about the world as true, so you have no filter until you
yeah,
get out of that first 6-7 years, and you're able to kind of start filtering life through it. And then kids start saying no, and then okay, they're starting to filter things.
yes.
um, yeah, yeah. So and also past lives. I've worked many times where the trauma or the stuck energy could have been programmed into you from a past life. When I
Mm,
first started working with clients, I went through a sort of period of just doing voluntary work as I was setting up my business. So I'd go to a community centre in Kent, and they were able to give me whatever they wanted. I don't know, bar chocolate or £5 or something, whatever they had. I was
yeah.
dealing with all the heavy, abuse and back pain, and traumas of all sorts. So that was a
Mm,
kind of eye opener to hear those stories, because I mean, I always thought I'd led quite a sheltered life. In fact, I haven't whatsoever. You know, I've lived in North Africa, in Italy, and I've travelled quite widely. And when I do recount stories of things that happened to me, people go, "Sherri, that doesn't happen to many people." So I'd kind of, but doesn't that happen to everybody? You know, isn't that normal? It's like, no, it's not normal. So yeah, and a couple of the experiences I think I can share with you tonight about the Kundalini awakening and a near-death experience that I had as well.
Yeah, I mean, what led you to Egypt? You've travelled quite a bit, haven't you? But what led you to Egypt in particular?
So, so I was dating someone who didn't live in Italy at the time, so we would often meet up in different locations and spend some holiday time together, and it was lovely. Portugal and Greece and all kinds of, and it just happened to be, you know, his suggestion, why don't we meet up in Egypt? You know, I'll meet you off the plane in Cairo, which is what he did. And I think I had been doing a bit of Kundalini yoga at the time, but not much. I didn't know really, nobody had really explained Kundalini yoga because I'd gone to this teacher for some healing. They did Satnam Rasayan healing, and some friends said, really good, go and see her. So that's what initially drew me into that. And then I took the classes and I thought, well, yoga's good for you. Let's do that. You know, I was busy dancing and having a great time doing other things in Italy, mainly dancing. And I felt good, but I didn't really explore the teachings of Kundalini in depth. My boyfriend, however, he really went in depth and knows an awful lot and was teaching Kundalini yoga himself many years ago. But I just heard that, well, we're waking up this energy at the base of the spine. And so I knew about the chakras and stuff like that. But yeah, the trip to Egypt was totally random at the time. I went, yeah, okay. Little did I know, actually, I did have many past lives there as a high priestess, and goodness knows what else, but many past lives in Egypt, as many of us have, right, on the spiritual path. Many people seem to connect with ancient Egypt or Lemuria or Atlantis at some level. And we had gone to, so we were in Cairo, and my friend, my boyfriend at the time. Pardon?
Sorry, Sherri, did you feel anything when you were there? I mean, you said about having past lives. Did you feel anything at the time, or was it?
Well, it was like a gradual focus. I kind of arrived going, duh, you know, holiday, let's have a nice time. I was probably more interested in having a holiday and spending time with him at the time. But as the days progressed, I started to feel weirder and weirder and didn't really know, because I think I'd grown up in a environment where it wasn't safe to question things. And as a Sagittarius, that kind of went against the grain, because I do question things quite a lot, right? And I natural ping, you know, flying for higher knowledge, higher spiritual experiences. But let's say up to then, I hadn't really maybe taken a leap of faith. So on this particular morning, we're in Cairo soon after we arrived, so let's go to the pyramids. And I thought, yes, please take me to the pyramids. But we hired the horses and went to go to another pyramid a bit further down. And I was having weird feelings about being in the desert. I thought, this feels very familiar, but I wasn't in that energy of questioning at the time. On the way back, we're again the horses, and there was this camel all done up with his pom-poms and everything, clearly something that they, you know, used to take photos with the tourists. And my friend said, Sherri, let's get on the camel. And I went, okay, if you must. Oh, and I'd had experiences of camels in another place in North Africa, and I knew that they could be quite unpredictable, camels to say the least, and they bite and stuff like that.
Wow.
I'll turn this on. And on the way back, we saw this camel, and my friend said, let's get on the camel and get these old guys to take a picture of us. And I went, okay. But the camel was very reluctant to take both of us, and I happened to be sitting on the back. Anyway, he eventually got up, and I was sitting on the back. But I could feel the camel swaying. It was very, very unstable on his legs. And before I knew it, I was flying off the back. He decided to kneel down again. It sent me flying off the back, and I landed on the hard desert on my tailbone, which paralyzed me totally. Apart from my face, I could feel my face, and I could, but I was totally paralyzed.
Ooh.
And I remember thinking, well, if I die here, it's a pretty romantic way. Sherri, and these two guys in Arabic, like, there's no way you can get an ambulance in the middle of the desert, right? I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to stand up. There's no way I'm going to be able to walk back. And there's no way I'm going to be able to get back on that horse to get me back. And we've got a time limit on the horses. So I'm lying there going, and I just remember fire, a sensation of fire coming up through my body, because it was hot, not just because it was in the desert, but it really was hot. And it came up to my neck, and it probably went through, but I could still talk a little bit. I have no idea how long I was there, but the next minute my body sensations started coming back. And I wanted to stand up, and they were, oh, don't stand up. I said, no, I'll stand up. Somehow I got back on the horse, and we gently, rode back. Then we went into the Great Pyramid. God knows how I did that, because I'd had this really bad shock on my tailbone. We went down into the it's very, enclosed, when you sort of have to kind of crawl down. It's not a walk-in kind of deal. Yeah, so crawl down this shaft into the base of the Great Pyramid, and the room where the sarcophagus there. And I thought, this feels familiar. And I started feeling okay, even though I'd had this really bad accident and had been paralyzed. It seemed to not vanish or be meaningless, but it wasn't affecting me. I was beginning to feel, I was beginning to feel a sort of state of lightness. It was all in preparation for this Kundalini awakening, which happened outside. So anyway, we hung around, came out, and then at the time, I don't know if you still can, but we went up the three little Queen's pyramids next to the main pyramid. And my friend said, let's climb up to the top. And I went, well, nobody here, we might as well, and just sit on the top. And I've got a photograph on my website. It's just before, like a minute or two before the actual experience happened. I was in a state of just utter happiness and joy, and I felt deeply rested inside, like my soul suddenly felt at rest, at peace. And again, I wasn't questioning. It was just a state of being that was going on inside of me. And it was just, wow, how many people get to the pyramids in their lifetime? It's like a dream come true to get there. Saturday, looked at the pyramid, and I started, feeling a bit weird again. And I started to hear, and I didn't talk about this for many years, by the way. And this is the first time I'm kind of telling the story publicly. I'm not told this. Oh, bless. And the main pyramid in front of me, and I'm sitting in this kind of just joy in my soul. And then suddenly I felt like a rumbling feeling coming up from my feet, and I could hear celestial music. And when I first described it to people, I used to say something like, it sounded like there was an orchestra there. In fact, I didn't even talk about it with my friend at the time. because I didn't know what was happening, even though I'd done a bit of Kundalini yoga. I'd never been told about this Kundalini awakening, like this big spiritual experience. Oh, that's weird. So I could hear this celestial music, and I thought it was like an orchestra. And I remember looking around going, where's that coming from? And at the same time, this like a sort of wave pulsating from definitely coming up through my feet, up through my legs, up through my torso, up through my spine. And it was just like gushing, like literally a gushing, and I could see it. I mean, I could see it. What do I mean? I could see it. I think I could see it with my third eye. I could feel it. It was almost like it was a very real, like a fountain of light through the top of my head. And I couldn't speak. I was kind of stuck in this process coming up through my body and just kind of gushing out the top of my head, this kind of sensation, and this celestial music going on at the same time. And my friend just said to me, and there were tears streaming down my face. And I didn't understand why there were tears streaming down my face either. I didn't know what on earth was going on. He just said to me, Sherri, are you okay? And I kind of went, and he just had the good sense to let whatever was happening happen. We didn't talk about it at the time. I just said, I heard music. Was there an orchestra? No, Sherri, no. And I have no idea how long. I have no idea how long I was in the desert, without any sensation, paralyzed. I have no idea how long I was there having this Kundalini awakening process. But we then hobbled back to the hotel. I remember we ordered a meal in the room because I really didn't feel like going anywhere. The pain started again in my sacrum. I just felt very washed out. I slept very, very well. And I think the next day we got on a train and went down to Luxor.
Okay.
And hired bikes and went round the
bikes. Wow.
Valley of the King on a bike, right? The next so right, there's no time to get over that one into the next thing. And there was a whole series of, and just the way Egyptians spoke to me, it was as if I was a local to them. And many of them in the hotel would speak to me in Arabic, and I'm like, oh, well, I do understand a little bit of Arabic, but I'm not. It just seemed weird, right? The whole thing was just very, very weird. And as I said, right, I did not talk about it with people because I thought I must be really loopy. That's a loopy experience. I had no idea. But it was really like opening the floodgates. It unleashed something within me that was to be processed and to get me aligned for my real work, which is doing this, helping people, working on mindsets and beliefs for people, healing traumas and past lives, and doing soul fragments and retrievals and all kinds of readings, and and I've done many of the training courses as well, taught the training courses, which I'm probably going to pick up again with soon.
Yeah.
I had no idea at that time. I was not doing spiritual work. I was doing other stuff.
Okay. Did your boyfriend or partner know what it was you were going through? You said he's done some Kundalini yoga before.
That was a different partner.
Oh, excuse me.
Partner, yeah. So that was 30 years ago. So I'm with someone else now who does the Kundalini. He was telling me about his Kundalini awakening experience, and very, very different to mine. It didn't do the gushing up through and the top of the head, but there was a big opening for him over his crown, and he'd never experienced that before. So I think Kundalini awakening can be different for everybody, but that seems to line up with a lot of the ancient knowledge that seems to be around about this coiled serpent energy at the base of the spine. And why was it depicted as a serpent? There isn't a snake. It was depicted as a serpent because the serpent moves in waves. And most energy does not move in a direct line. It meanders. And that's life, right? Our lives on the spiritual path, because I'm guessing most people listening to us today will be at some stage in their spiritual awakening and possibly had a totally different Kundalini awakening experience. I don't think there's any right or wrong way about it, but that seemed to really align because I could feel that energy moving in waves through my body, predominantly up through the spine, a bit like that. And I don't want to get into all the Sanskrit words because I might make mistakes, and there's all different meanings and Shakti and the meanings. So I don't want to go into that right now. But Kundalini, yes, I think we all have Kundalini energy. And I think that kind of big awakening is a big wake-up call where it's just something that's unleashed or unlocked within us that really opens up a greater spiritual experience of life. You know, I'm a lot as an empath, you know, I know that the journey of awakening is not easy. It's sometimes pretty rocky, actually.
Yeah, yes, it certainly can be. Yeah, and people go on lots of challenges, don't they? But I wanted to touch on what happened there, because you mentioned a few things that happened in that space of time, which is interesting. One of them being that you know, you were on this path that kind of wasn't really aligned to you, albeit that you didn't realize at the time. Then you go to somewhere that's very spiritually, you know, imbued. It's a very powerful place, and probably sitting on a huge, you know, energy portal, and then you have injury to the bottom of your spine. And I wondered what the connection was there. Was that, do you think those things were necessary for you to have that Kundalini awakening?
Well, like I say, I think people can have different Kundalini awakening experiences. The one I experienced was, it kind of ties in with a lot of the things that I found out later, like, you know, the Kundalini yoga practice is about opening up the dormant serpent at the base of the spine, that through the practice of Kundalini yoga, flexing the spine and moving, you gradually open up and unleash this kind of concentrated cosmic energy, whatever you want to. I think there are many terms for it. I'm just sharing what I experience, this intense cosmic experience that does reside in that base chakra area, the base of the spine, the coccyx, whatever you want to go. It's around that area. It seems to reside because that's where it dominated, but it also came up through my feet. So whether that was conducive with that, you know, pyramid energy, I mean, it's a huge energy point. I mean, really, I mean, it is amazing being at the pyramids, and being in Glastonbury is also amazingly high energy, but it's the heart chakra of the world. So, you know, maybe I was then brought here to work on the heart, and I'm very happy with a new partner as well here, and my work has doubled, you know, in the last few years as being here.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah,
it is.
So,
it is.
Yeah, so the injury to your coccyx must have helped with the activation of that Kundalini energy to come through your spine. And it was no accident. Well, it was no coincidence that happened.
No, there are no accidents, you know, coincidences, and getting you more aligned. So what happened, how that ties in with the story then, with the near-death experience that I had. I think it was about 5 years after that Kundalini awakening, and as I said, I still wasn't talking about it with anybody. I got into different groups and more into the Kundalini yoga, and then I'd been on a sort of I think it was trance channeling weekend with someone from Denmark, and these friends had come along. I'd never done anything outside of, I think, Kundalini yoga at the time. And they said, "Oh, it'd be really fun." There's a friend of his, very gifted psychic reader, and was trance channeling. And he did a little channeling for everyone in the room. And when he got to me, he kept saying, "And you, my dear, clearly know that you are meant to be reaching out with your hands to other people." And I thought, what does he mean? Did he mean massage? Oh no, I'm going to have to spend years massaging people. I did train in various kinds of massage, but I knew that wasn't my path. Because as I was massaging people, I would always give them psychic readings, or I could see like a TV screen. This is absolutely true. I used to see like a TV screen in the air next to people's head, and I would see the film of their future dreams.
Mm.
I switched that one off because it was a bit too much for me.
Yeah, they just came to relax
next to people. Yeah. I also had to switch off seeing dead people walking through walls, because that happened a few times as well. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I can see it intuitively, but like sitting with your real eyes and seeing these things can be a little bit. The TV screen was usually when I was closely engaged with the person, talking about their issues or their future, what they wanted, and I would describe, because I would see it in the screen next to them. And then often they would say, "You're right, that did happen. I did have that experience." And I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." But I didn't even know the term psychic, at the time. I grew up, say, in a Catholic family.
Okay.
So, I was a good girl. I was, Catholic. I didn't question things, although I did kind of question things, but outwardly to the world, I would just question inwardly, and inwardly I would talk to God as well. I was brought up in a belief that God is there, and you can talk to God, but I didn't know that there was a wider, more experience outside of the religious aspect of God, which is not, I don't work with religious aspects of God now. I work with, source, creator, and sometimes angels and guides will come and assist, and sometimes, the ancestors will come in, and I can do a reading with the ancestors as well. That often comes up with the work. But I've digressed a little bit. Yeah. So I'd gone on this course. They'd invited me, and these two guys, the following Fridays, they'd come to our house for dinner, gone to the house for dinner. And it was during the winter. I don't remember, but it was cold. At the time, I was riding around one of those little teeny weeny motorbikes you didn't need a helmet for at the time. I remember I was wrapped up pretty well, big thick coat and lots of scarves. I would have had a woolly hat and stuff. And on the way home, somebody came out from a side road or car park or something, blocked me, and apparently tipped my bike, and I went flying over whatever was in front of me and skidded on the ground on the left side of my face. And so most of that skin was gone. So I got pretty awful teeth. A lot of them were knocked and scratched, and a couple was dead, and had to have a root canal, which if I'd known any better, I would never have had. And stitches and everything, but it's pretty good.
You wouldn't know now.
Good. You wouldn't know. Right. You see a little bit of a scar here. That one's gone, but a little rose hip oil helped me heal the scars. That was so I didn't remember. I remembered being these friends for the evening. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember walking down the stairs, getting on my bike, nothing. That memory has never come back. And so that happened. The ambulance came. Apparently, I was walking. I was still standing in the road, blood pouring out everywhere, babbling, call my boyfriend and reciting the number over and over for some reason. He was in India, another boyfriend at the time. And I was taken into hospital, don't remember a thing. But in the morning, apparently about 8 o'clock the next morning, when I was revived, I had the experience of someone sucking me into my body. That's the best way I can describe it. And this nurse, this tall, very, very unusual person. It's a man, very tall, with thick brown curly hair. I remember very distinctively. He had a very unusual face. I could not place him. He was not Italian. He was not Middle Eastern. He couldn't place a country, although he spoke in Italian because we were in Italy at the time. And he was massaging, stroking my hand and saying in Italian, "Come back, Sherri, come back," with this kind of tugging, pulling energy. And the only memory that I have is this kind of, literally being sucked back into my body and then lying on the bed, opening my eyes and seeing him. And he was just such a blessed being of light.
Wow.
So come back. And he said, "Glad you came back." And he said, "You've had an accident. Don't worry, you're fine. But we were about to take you in for a CT scan because, you've been out. You've been unconscious. But don't worry, you're going to be fine." And he was very, very reassuring. And I thought, that's very kind for an Italian nurse, because they're not usually that personal, mainstream medical stuff. Yeah. And I thought, okay. And I was in the room. There were 2 beds. And I was on my own. And at one point he left. And I remember going into the bathroom and going, who's that in the mirror? Because half my face was gone. And the stitches, the bruising. I mean, it looked pretty awful. And then he came back a little while later and he said, well, that number you kept saying you call your boyfriend. Well, we found out that he's in India, but his mum calls like at 3 o'clock in the morning or something. And she never met me. But she very kindly came to the hospital to make sure that I was okay. So it's like the first time you meet your boyfriend's mother.
Okay.
She was very sweet. No, she was very worried, right? So I've sat with that experience, and again, I did not realize that I had actually died and come back into my body until much later, because I was so out of the body, the memory of being pulled back in. And it's not just an out-of-body experience where, you might, in a meditation, you might start floating above your body and seeing your body underneath you. I mean, I actually enter the quantum field for my work on a daily basis, where I leave the physical body and connect to source in order to do healings and to heal people. So that became a kind of regular thing. So whether that was a practice or a teaching about that, yes, but this was something much bigger. I knew that it was something much bigger. I had completely left my body, and they were very worried, that I wasn't waking up. So
yeah. Okay. Do you remember the afterlife? Do you remember the experience when you were out of your body then?
So I've sat with this and I've meditated on this quite a lot, and I do have very vivid memories. So I don't remember a transition. People have often described near-death experiences as going towards a light, being greeted by Jesus. No, I was just, I was immediately in a very spacious room with a group of people at a very long oval table. And my paternal grandfather was one of the people. Some of them looked very odd, almost non-earthly. But I later found out, when I did my first Theta Healing training, that's called your Council of 12. So your
Oh,
Council of
okay.
12, yeah, your Council of 12 work with you in between lives. You sit, you have your meetings, you do your reviewing, you decide, okay, that's what you've learned, and now you're going to go back in, and are you going to choose what kind of, because you've got that much to learn, so you get to select your family and the place, the country and stuff. That all happens, with the Council 12's assistance. That's how it was taught to me in Theta Healing many years later. But at the time, that I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea that I'd actually left my body in such a way that, and they said to me very clearly, it would be advised for you to go back in because you haven't actually started your life's work yet. Yeah, and I was 34, 35. So they say that, you're around the age of 28, 30, you have this kind of Saturn return years in astrology, is called Saturn return. And then every 7 years, you can have something called like a milestone year. Well, I suppose I was in that kind of milestone year, and milestones mean major changes can take place, or change of direction in your life, right? The Saturn return is calling you back down to your earthly things, your home, your family, or having babies, stuff like those major life shifts that some people choose to do.
Yeah.
And that will be the call for it around that age. So I think that age, that 34, 35 year was, getting me ready for a new shift in my direction again. So I thought, okay, but I really didn't examine it at the time. I hadn't examined the Kundalini awakening. As I said, I did not know what the process I'd been through. I did not really understand that I'd had a near-death experience. This meeting went on, though, for quite a while. So probably throughout the night, the meeting was going on, and they were being very kind and compassionate towards me. Because I remember I actually wanted to leave.
Okay.
I really struggled as an empath, and again, I didn't realize what that meant. I didn't realize I was an empath, HSP, highly sensitive person. Why I struggled so much being around people, and why I was such a psychic sponge, because I've got a lot of psychic energy going on. Hello, that's who I am, and it's always been there. As a child, I remember in Canada, I was born in Canada, and I remember tobogganing one winter, and my mother was at the top of the slope, and I'd done a bit of a funny tumble on a toboggan, and she was standing at the top laughing. It was just this blue sky around her. And I remember seeing her aura light up and expand as she was laughing.
Oh.
I remember sitting with a Ouija board with my little brother, and some ET with some huge long name was trying to communicate with me. I'm like, but I hadn't, like I say, I hadn't really pieced it all together as, Sherri, you're on a spiritual journey, and we're trying to wake you up because you've got to do, you've got work to do. So,
that person that came through when you did the Ouija board, I wonder if that was one of your 12.
Could be. It freaked me out because when I read the name, I felt the presence standing next to me, and it was a very tall, friendly but tall presence, and I knew that name that had just been spelt out was that presence standing next to me. Freaked me out though, Ray, and I said, oh, that was stopping this, and we put the board away.
Yeah, not the usual thing you expected to get through.
No. So I think I spent years dismissing things, and I really want to, reach out to people. If you find yourself having these weird experiences, right? Just be open to the universe actually giving you a sign, right? If you're meant to be working with people, if you're meant to be a healer, or if you're just meant to allow and embrace a a bit like thinking outside the box, we're leaving that old 3D paradigm. And it's called 5D. I don't know why it's called 5D, but the new golden age, whatever it is we're going through, heading towards now, is very real. We're going through a huge awakening. So those sporadic awakening experiences that people will have and describe over the years is becoming much more frequent and much more intense for people. That's what I see through my, connecting with clients, and just generally friends, and just generally, Glastonbury, and the intensity of the energies when, dramas take place. And we've been through a fair few dramas in the last few years with lockdowns and stuff, very confusing for people. What do you do? What do you believe? What do you follow? How do you handle that? So
and how do you embrace it? Big thing for people is, they've got this calling, but they've still got to pay bills. Maybe they've got a spouse that doesn't really get it. They've still got to hold down the job. It's quite a challenge, isn't it, to make that leap?
It's really challenging, but what I can say from my personal experience is that if you're not getting it, the universe will kind of come knocking on your door in some other way. You might just meet a psychic in the cafe and start going, oh, my boyfriend was saying earlier, he met somebody, and I don't know, it was a cafe or some public place, and this guy just said, so you were born on a Tuesday, and he just went, he didn't even know he'd been born on a Tuesday. Why you could have, because it took him down a journey of astrology and other stuff like that outside of his office job that he was doing at the time, and the Kundalini and stuff. And so I think we're all being drawn to alternative ways of doing things and alternative ways of thinking. And I think that is part of this whole great awakening, is we cannot stick to those old little 3D paradigm. Everything's in a box and your life is safe if you get up and go to work and go home every day and pay your bills. It's so much more than that, so much more beautiful, expansive, blissful, and I have to say magical experience of living that I now can say I am embracing. And it's fun. It's a lot more fun now. I can relax more. So, okay, I know I've got these abilities, and I know there's a lot of other people that know about these abilities I can talk to about Kundalini awakening and near-death experience and stuff. So I was called back in because I had not started my work, but it was made clear that it was still a choice for me to come in. It wasn't forced. And it was this council of 12, and there were some of them I recognized intuitively, some of them I didn't, and there was a very high frequency, very light. I do remember flecks of pink in the energy there. So there was a lot of compassion.
Loving energy.
Very loving, very compassionate, but I don't remember tunnels and things like that many people describe as a near-death experience. So
I suppose it's individual for everyone, isn't it?
And rightly so, I think. There's no comparison. I think rightly so, everyone is. But I think at the time, I had no one to turn to really to talk to stuff like that, because I thought I was in a kind of mainstream world. I thought it was just normal not to talk about the weird things. And gradually that changed. After the near-death experience, I have to say, things really opened up for me. That year, I think I started exploring.
What were you doing before that?
I was doing all kinds of training and teaching different things, teaching students, teaching different things. And I was working as an interpreter. So there were lots of trade fairs. So I often found myself helping people, right,
Yeah.
through language or difficulties or communication of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Did
Okay.
some TV work as well. We're recording children's programs for TV, and you know,
Yeah.
put an extra in different films, and just lots of fun. There was lots of
Yeah.
exploring went on after that. Yeah, and I was called
Excellent.
upon for different things. So, yeah, weird
Yeah.
things, more. And so the weird things started multiplying, I would say.
Yeah. Since after your near-death experience, then it just completely shifted
Synchronicity.
into a much more spiritual path.
Synchronicities. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'd been told that week before, you want to be reaching out with your hands towards others. I
Yeah.
didn't have any terms. I didn't have any terminology for that to understand. I thought, well, if you reach out with your hands, it means you're going to massage them. So, and I think actually I did. A few people suddenly said, "Oh, I'll come and you can play with my chakras," because we'd learned how to do a simple chakra balancing exercise. I said, "Oh, okay, come along." And I would invariably end up with their feet doing some kind of foot massage. And as I was holding their feet, I could psychically read, ask me any questions, and I could see, have you been thinking of this? And have you been worried about that? And people go, yeah, how do you know? And stuff like that. So it kind of, people just showed up. And I'm like, I don't, like somebody, my neighbor once said, can after I'd moved back to the UK, can you do the tarot cards? I'd been given a set of tarot cards. Just, can you do the tarot cards for my friend? Because they're going to take away her daughter or her son or something, a marriage breakup. And I said, oh, well, okay, but I'm not very good at it. And then her grandmother comes in, people walking through the walls. So, and never saw her again. She just kind of came in and disappeared. I didn't know. Who was that? The lady had requested the reading. So I think the universe really pushes people towards you, sometimes because you need to learn something from them, but sometimes it's often to kind of awaken or, expand or explore this direction that I believe we actually choose to, the path that we choose to follow before we incarnate. I think we do come in with a plan, and our divine timing will lead us, get us back on that path. If we're meant to be doing work with people and we're over here doing something else, boom, there might be a bit of a shocking event happen. Don't be surprised. Because you think, I was quite happy following that path, and then the universe goes, aha, really?
Again.
You're meant to be over.
Yeah. So there's like holding back the tide, really, isn't it? It's impossible to do if that energy will just take you, and you will, you'll find yourself on that path.
It's hard to interpret. It's hard to interpret what's going on at the time, right? Very often, if you're in an awakening process, you're not going to understand it immediately. It makes sense later. So I would advise people just to go super gently. If anything, like a catastrophe or something major happens in your life, there's always going to be some higher purpose, no matter how painful or difficult or brutal in some cases that might be. When I'm working with people, I say, well, what is the bigger picture here? There's something much larger. If we think in terms of all the universes that we're connected to, and we're connected to all that is, and so we're never separate. We're all part and extension of that same divine light, and that divine light is going to want to, guide us as best it can, depending on how willing we are to listen. And I think it took me 5 years between the Kundalini awakening and the near-death experience to kind of piece it all together inwardly to get me working more with people, not just in the sort of language context, but
it wasn't an instant thing. It was a process. It was a catalyst, but then there's a process.
Yeah, and I can't even pinpoint exactly when I learnt the term Kundalini awakening, but it was quite a long time afterwards. And actually, someone I met here in Glastonbury who was channeling as well, and was channeling the celestial sounds through crystals. I went, that's what I heard at the pyramids. And I remember asking him, I said, that's what I heard. And he said, because you chose to come in and have that experience. That was part of your awakening to get you on your path. I mean, I believe we're always on a path. I don't think there's anything scary about you're on or you're off your path, you're lost. I don't think we're ever we deviate.
Yeah.
I'm getting bored here. I think I'll go over here and learn something really hard, because those ancestral beliefs, life is hard, you have to struggle for money, you have to suffer to be close to God. They're all really common beliefs that have been instilled with us, and they're absolutely not true. So I help people release those programmings, and sometimes there can be vows and curses attached to them. They don't need to be there anymore. Life is meant to be good. Life is meant to be fun. We do learn and grow an awful lot here. This is, Dolores Cannon used to say, this is a pretty hard planet to be in, to be on, to incarnate. But we chose to be here.
Yeah.
We chose
and
to
it's
be here.
remembering who we are, isn't it, in the process of it all.
And that is another download that I often get guided to bring in. So would it be okay if I just ask Source if there's any downloads that I could offer to people?
That'd be nice to close this chat, actually.
Yeah. So I'm being guided to download. So the process of downloading is just accepting a lovely wave of soft, gentle energy direct from Source, not coming from me. And it will help to bring your programming in alignment with that experience, so opening the receptors. And I'm being shown, would you like to know what it feels like to recognize what unconditional love truly means and truly is and truly feels like? And that you remember who you truly are and what you truly are from the highest perspective of the universe. Is that okay? And if that's okay, you just say yes. And I'll bring that in, and it will go into everyone listening. As long as you say yes, not when you're driving, just allow the energy to come through. It'll come through all cells of your body and through all ages and aspects of you and through all languages too. So when that's okay. And this can go out across time and space, so recordings will still work. Thank you. It is done. It is done. It is done. And that should save anybody listening a lot of work around the knowing who you are and what you truly are. Because people often want to say, what should I be doing here? What should I be doing on this planet? But knowing who you are and what you are really helps to get back to what you should, what you've chosen to do.
Yes, that answers a lot of questions. Yes, I felt that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's I work with very powerful energies, and because I'm in Avalon, it really has intensified. The work that I'm doing really has intensified, and I'm just super busy all the time. I haven't taken a break all summer. This is just the first few days I've had off, probably since I moved here. Yeah.
Wow. And yeah, you're doing theta healing pretty much every day then? People are contacting you and wanting that help. I can imagine that pretty much everyone on the planet needs the work you do. So yeah, you're going to be kept very busy.
I love the work. I really love the work. I'm very passionate about the work and do a lot of inner child retrieval work, energetic divorce. If you had a bad breakup, do energetic divorces, soul retrieval, soul fragments, broken soul. There's a lot that I do in the session. Yeah.
So how do people find you?
So under sherrijemmett.com website. Yeah.
Okay.
Best way
I
to
can put a
find
link
me.
in for people to find you
Yeah.
at the
There's a
end.
phone number on there. They can email me, or there's a phone number on there. Can send me. Best to send a text message. Say I'd like to book or something. I can't answer calls throughout the day. I'm busy,
No.
but yeah, I get back to people and
Yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Sherri, for your time today. The stories are fascinating. We'll have to do a part 2 sometime.
Yes,
Yeah,
there's
feel like we've
probably
just
more.
surface there. Yeah.
Okay. And I just
Real pleasure.
leave it to be an inspiration for others on the spiritual path. There's always going to be ups and downs, but ground yourself, drink good water, healthy water, spring water. We've got chalice well water here. It's wonderful. Don't
Oh,
drink the
wow.
tap water. Yeah, and stay organic and rest, right? We need a lot more rest. When it's
Yeah.
intense, the energy is intensifying, you need more rest.
It is a very intense time, and that's important. We're in a society that encourages doing all the time. And I see a lot of
Yeah,
people being stressed out trying to catch up with themselves. And it's good to listen to that body and listen to the soul. Go
it
right.
is. It is. And not be hard on yourself either.
Yes.
I find many people just too hard on themselves. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Get it
help. It doesn't
out.
help. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Soft and gentle and yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
But
wonderful.
you look amazing too, my darling. I don't know
Thank
what work you're doing, but you always look amazing, but you look particularly amazing today. So I just want to say, and thank you for inviting me.
you.
I've really enjoyed having a
Yeah.
sort of public about my experiences that were very
Yeah.
personal and confusing as well at the time, but so important as well.
Yeah. Some people won't know what's going on. So it's helpful for
No,
people to have that first-hand experience
yeah,
with you. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's good to get to know you better as well. So a real pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, I can interview you sometime maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a channel?
Yeah, YouTube channel, yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I
Okay.
haven't
Great
posted for a
stuff.
while. I'll just get up and running again, but yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, great. I look forward to
Okay.
it.
All right, my darling, I can
All
do
right.
that.
Well, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too, my darling. It's been such a pleasure and just, yeah,
Yes,
greetings from
absolutely.
Avalon.
Yeah. Okay.
Love and blessings to you, my darling. Take
Love and
care.
blessings to you too. See you then.